Hello, 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 and welcome back to part 2 of how to make a mini BR. If you haven't watched the first part, go do that after this video, or come back to this video once you've finished watching that one. So in that video we planned out, and I have done quite a lot here, but today we're going to be focusing on terraining. So I'm going to use this little area here, and also do some of the desert, and some of this snowy mountain. Anyway, let's just get right into the first part. So, first of all, we need to, well, plan a bit more because you want to know how it's gonna roughly look. So, if you have this kind of just rough kind of plan here, I'm just doing something a bit like this, and that's good enough. Just a little rough gradient down to here, and then how long it's gonna go across. So now you want to grab this piece from the shark cliff, or any different terrain piece that has this corner piece, and you want to scale it all the way up to this size, and then just go into grid snap 1 or 2 and just piece them together. And then you have to multi-select with grid snap off, or you can do 32, but off looks the best in my opinion, since it's not as uniformed. But then you just really have to line it up with this and get it underneath the builds, because if it goes above the builds, then when you're building on top and adding buildings, then it won't really work. So for example, if I put this here just randomly, then if I try to protect myself and I put down some walls, then you wouldn't actually get as much cover. And if you tried to put a building down, then you'd have to do this, and you'd have to have some stairs, and it just doesn't really work. So you want it to always line up. So this does take time and patience, but eventually you'll get something a little bit like this. So you can actually get rid of your plan now. So it's a bit like blocky, so you want to smooth it out a bit. So you grab the same piece and go on the pitch or the roll, depending on which angle you picked it up at. But and then you just, you know, add a little tilt down on the sides to make it look like it's a bit of more of a hill and not a blocky mini cliff. So it should look something a bit like this. So this is the kind of thing that you want. It doesn't have to be perfect, so something just along those lines will be alright. So now you want to add a bit of nature around. So when you're adding these pine trees, which I really like, make sure to vary the sizes and add them in like little clumps, because adding them around just doesn't look as good as doing something a bit like this and adding them around, because this is how they would most naturally grow. So I'm just going to add some trees over here, and then I'm going to add some autumn trees, since Rockslide Row is very autumn based. So I'll just have a little bit of gradient going out, because I'll add in some more regular trees alongside them. And there we go. There's some nice trees. You don't want to add too many of these big ones around. So now you can get this sanctuary piece, or you can go over to the rock variant gallery. Personally, I like this better. So then you place the rocks around in like corners or places that have like a little crease, if you know what I mean. And you can place them alongside the road, just places where they're not too out in the open, but they can still fill up some space. You can place them near trees, which is a very good idea. So something just a bit like this. It's more of an art form, so you've just got to get used to doing it. It's not really any specific way to do it. So bushes, you can have very small bushes, but I quite like having really big bushes just around. So once again, this is going to be a gradient with the autumn area, so I'm going to add some autumn bushes as well. So now if you see, I'll add some of the autumn ones around here, and you can have some smaller ones as well, but I don't really like to do that. I just like to do something like this. So I'd say that is pretty good, and you can also go to the extra length of adding some mushrooms around, just a bit like this, to add some extra colour and to really just have it pop. Add some wild mushrooms. So this part depends. I'm not going to do it over here, but if you want a more tropical area, you can use palm trees, and then as well as in jungles, this counts for, you can use this piece right here, which you can see is actually scaled down a bit, because if you scale the height down a bit, then it just looks a bit better. Anyways, that's for the green nature area. Moving on to the desert. So for the desert, it's a bit different, though it's a lot of similarities. So you again want the same thing, but with the arid cliffs. But with this one, you want more extreme kind of terrain. You want to have like quite high canyon walls. So you can see what I've done over here. It's like quite tall and quite blocky in a way, but not too blocky. Because if I just have like a little bit up here, just a bit like this, and then I can always add in a bit of sand going up towards the side, just a bit like this. Also adding bits on the side that are once again still on the grid, because you still want them to be able to build, and this can help them not use as many materials getting up. Also just improves the aesthetic. So now I'm just gonna get rid of these, and there we go, we've got our little area here. And then cactuses are cacti are very prominent in deserts, though they don't have to be. I'm gonna have a very cactusy, that's probably not a word. I'm gonna have a very cactusy desert, so I'm gonna place them around on these, just places where you feel like they would fit well and don't really obstruct anything too much. Rocks are a big part of this, so you want to have them leading into the mountain, like this, to emulate some more shape than this cylinders. And you also want them to get some materials from these. If you're creating something a bit more like a oasis, then these trees again are really good. So if you just put them like over here, then they can look really nice. Anyways, the desert is meant to be barren and open with not too much in there, so that's gonna be a quick end for the desert. The mountain snow up here is a lot like the green area, just with snow, and these snow pieces that I've put together with this and this piece. This one can be found in the ice house, this one's the snow dunes. And you just kind of want to place them around. So over here I have started to make this mountain. So because it's more of a mountain, you want it to be angled. So the slope, it will actually slope down and not just be blocky. Because we know that blocky doesn't always look as good. And when it's not as steep, you can add it this way to look like there's more snow on it. So just a bit like this. But then, so here we are with this. I'm going to add some foliage onto it. This isn't an entire mountain, since this video would get way too long, so I'm just going to use the pine tree trick, just like here, adding it in clumps along this mountain. So there we are, we just add some snow bushes, just going along, using the tricks that we learned earlier, but now here comes the unique part to the snow area. So you want to get these pieces that you found before, and you really just want to place them around. Like, this piece is better for flat areas, really. I'm still going to use it for the tutorial. So there you go, and I much prefer using this because it's a lot easier to use and is a lot bigger. So then you can just add like little dunes, just a bit like this. Just place them in places where you think that they would be suitable to go, so don't put them, you know, in really extreme locations. And then again, just put the rocks around, and there you go. Anyways, if you really enjoyed this, these videos are a lot of work, so consider subscribing, and if you want to see more of this, then like and leave a comment. Peace.